Okay, today I'm going to be showing how diamond steel shingles are installed for a basic roof. Before we start, we'll look at the tools that I'll be using. Basic couple of tin snips, aviation snips, tinner snips, speed square, framing square, hammer, tape, pencils. And also I'm wearing gloves here, and it's important to use gloves when you're working with the metal. It's thin gauge, it's very sharp. These have a rubber texture on it, so it's very good for grip. So yeah, very important, otherwise you tend to get nicks in your fingers. First thing we're going to do is put our eave starter at the bottom. There's the profile of our starter trim that we'll be using, which is a fairly basic starter trim. I'm putting it on underneath the membrane. It's going to start flush with the gable end of the roof here, and I'll be shooting it on. Nailed should be probably 16 inches to 2 feet. Our next trim, starting off on the end, is a gable. So gable goes over the end of the fascia. It's going to line up at the bottom flush with the starter piece. Now before I put it on, I'm going to clip a little bit off the corner here. And it just makes it easier for our starter shingles to hook on as our next step. So there I'm flushing the end, flushing the bottom here. Now normally on a gable end, if we're starting off, we would lay it out so that the first starter shingle's in 12 inches to the point of it. So there's my 12-inch mark. Now my first starter shingle, it has a fold in the bottom of it. This is to hook on to our eave starter, which we've just put on. And I'm lining it up with my 12-inch mark here. I just tap it up, make sure it's snug there. And the clips on the top of each shingle, they're meant for 4 nails, so there's 4 nails on top of each one, which will be the same throughout the roof. Now that we have one starter shingle on, the layout for the rest of them is 23.5 inches from the center of this one to the center of the following ones. So 23.5, and if I was going on, it'd be 47 would be the next one. And this is really the only layout you do on the roof. So now my second starter shingle hooks on the eave starter again. Slide it over till I'm lined up with my 23.5-inch mark. Tap it up, make sure it's where I want to be. Okay, now we can put our first full shingles on. This full shingle, this is the standard shingle which you use throughout the roof. It has a clip on the top as a starter, folds on the 2 sides here, and 2 folds here on the back. So these folds in the back are going to hook on to the starter ones we have here. So there I have it shoved up. I look at both sides to see if our space is fairly similar there. And that's where I want it to be. All right, my gable end here, when I measured in 12 inches, that makes my next shingle just half a shingle. It's really not that important to start at that 12 inches, because anywhere you work, whatever you cut off this side, we'll use on another gable. So I'm going to knock the clip off here, but I'll keep this clip for later. So I'm going to mark this shingle corner to corner. So this is my piece for the end here. All right, there I've got that shingle in place. Notice I space it here roughly 1/4 to 3/8, which is sort of the standard space you can expect here. It can get a little smaller or a little larger as you work throughout the roof without affecting the whole system. Now the clip I cut off the top, I'm going to use to fasten this shingle on. I'm going to just cut it in half, hook it on there, and set it back where I want it again. So now my next shingle here will be a full shingle. I just have to loosen up the gable here to let it slide in. So as I work my way up the roof, I'm looking to keep these lines fairly level from one to the next. If one is down farther than the other or twisted, something like that, then that would bring the top over and make the space a little smaller. So as you shift them up here, try to keep these lines fairly parallel across the bottom here. So that's the basic layer to the roof. You can continue on the roof as that.